Okay. So after a few years of doing campaigns about a topic that I am really passionate about, adverse childhood experiences, today I think that we are going to be ending with a happy ending because we are going to close the chapter on a happy note, talking about positive childhood experiences. And I have a guest that will be helping us understand as parents, how can we help our kids to grow healthier, and where can we have help in our communities. So, Dr. Jones, thank you for being with us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, thank you so much for having me today and inviting me on your platform. I am a board certified pediatrician here in Orlando, Florida. Um, I take care of children from birth all the way up to young adulthood, usually as they go off to college. And I love, working with families. I often call myself the auntie. I feel like I'm a part of the family. And so I welcome, as you will see from this conversation, I welcome and I believe that families should be able to talk to their pediatrician about anything and go to them as their first line resource for anything.
Okay. So, for those that are new here on my blog, we have been talking for a while about adverse childhood experiences and how can those affect adults once they experience the um, adverse childhood topic when they are little, and then when they are grown-ups that can affect them. And we also have talked about how those are preventable. But if people are new here on the blog, can you tell us a little bit about what are adverse childhood experiences?
Sure, that's a great place to start. So, ACEs, as we normally say, a lot of little mnemonics here, but adverse childhood experiences are potentially traumatic events that occur between the ages of birth to 17 years of age. And they come in the form of various types of abuse, neglect, or household dysfunction. For instance, like witnessing domestic violence or being in a home with domestic violence, parental mental illness, or having a parent who's incarcerated. But we also now know through research that there are more ACEs. So even things like traumatic community events and even traumatic climate events, like hurricanes and fires. So all of those things impact children's health and have long lasting impact into adulthood. And so this matters because it can affect physical and mental health, behavior, even learning, and we even know that it has the ability to transition through generations. And it's a huge cost to our society when we talk about lost work hours, when we talk about healthcare cost and things of that nature. So it's really important that we're all aware of this and we're all equipped to deal with it, and get ahead of some of these, prevent some of these health problems that come along with ACEs, childhood trauma.
So why is so important for parents to know how to prevent these ACEs?
So, first thing is that ACEs are common. And so everyone needs to be aware of that. They're common and they occur in all people in all walks of life. Certainly people who are marginalized or underserved or have low socioeconomic status, they may have more doses of ACEs, those children, but everyone will can experience ACEs. But the second thing is that ACEs are preventable. And so there are things we can do to protect our children and protect our families in preventing childhood trauma from occurring. And I like to talk about 6 protective factors, and I won't name them all, but some of them as simple as families having their basic needs met, having food, water, shelter, that protects children from trauma, believe it or not. Having a parent who or caregivers who have knowledge of child development and parenting skills, helps to protect children from trauma. And lastly, just new mothers or caregivers of young children understanding the importance of attachment is a protective factor to prevent trauma. And if you want to just make it very simple, basically providing children with safe, stable, nurturing relationships and safe, stable, nurturing environments in homes and in communities protect kids and buffer the harmful effects of ACEs.
So I love that part that you just end us up with there, because it's kind of moving to my favorite way to see things, that is the positive way. So can we talk now about positive childhood experiences? What are
Yeah,
they?
so you're right. We are framing it as we're actually even framing this as PACEs. So
Mhm.
positive and adverse childhood
Oh,
experiences. And so you see it like a seesaw or a fulcrum, and bad things can happen, but we can load up those positive childhood experiences and tip the scale towards resilience and healing. So that's the way the whole movement is going. So you're absolutely right, because that gives hope, that gives a path forward to protection, resilience, and healing. And when we talk about positive childhood experiences, we studies have shown that adults who had ACEs as a child, but also had these positive childhood experiences, went on to become well-regulated adults despite their adversity. I heard one doctor talk about the story of the gymnast. Oh, I'm blank. Simone Biles. And you think about the adversity she experienced as a child and how she has gone on because of her, if I'm saying this correct, her adoptive parents or grandparents providing her this nurturing life, these positive childhood experiences. She had this pro-social activity of gymnastics, even though some adversity occurred within that. But everything was balanced out or tipped towards making her a very resilient individual who has done great things and will continue to do well because of all the nurturing and the relationships and the safety and security she had from various individuals. And so when families can do this, even if adversity has occurred, families can do this, parents can do this, teachers can do this with children just by simply reading to them, playing with them, setting up an environment with routines and roles, just giving kids their own thing to do that I'm responsible for builds them up and helps them feel like they belong. Providing them with affection and giving them those pro-social activities, whatever they're interested in, whether it's art or music or sports or whatever. Those are the simple positive childhood experiences we can give to help children do this as well.
so sometimes as parents, we try to do our best, but we're clueless. We didn't have a manual to do all this stuff. So where can parents and sometimes kids, teens, can find places where they can have those a positive childhood experiences?
Absolutely. So there are so many wonderful resources, but you're right that not every, there's some websites that may not be as reputable or credible. So you want to make sure you have trusted resources. So some of my go-to first, number one is always your pediatrician. So, we as pediatricians, as the American Academy of Pediatrics, are trying to make sure, and even here in my area in Orlando, with our creating a resilient community network, we're trying to create a community here in Central Florida that is aware of ACEs and that knows how to have trauma informed care infused throughout our community. So not all pediatricians know about ACEs or know what to do when childhood trauma occurs. And so just talking to your pediatrician, they may be aware and they definitely can be a resource for you depending on your situation. But also you may be introducing that topic to them so they can go in and read about it and learn and will ultimately help other families. So starting with your pediatrician is first and foremost. Second, I love the website pacesconnection.com.
Okay.
That's PACES connection.com. And they're all about informing and equipping and empowering individuals and organizations to deal with ACEs, but promote healing and hope and all of these wonderful things. Also, the cdc.gov has a whole page dedicated to creating positive childhood experiences and also around adverse childhood experiences. So lots of information there to read, to educate yourself, but also if you want to focus on positive childhood experiences, they have a page dedicated to that.
Okay, great.
And I think lastly, the last two I'll give you is healthychildren.org. This
Okay.
is the website for the American Academy of Pediatrics. And Dr. Robert Sege has a wonderful trauma-informed approach called HOPE, Healing Outcomes through Positive Experiences. His website, positiveexperience.org and healthychildren.org. He has written a blog on that website, but also has his own platform with a parent section about dealing with working in this area as well.
These are amazing resources. Do you know about any nation organizations that maybe have local charters with parents can find help?
I think through the CDC and the positiveexperience.org with Dr. Sege, that's out of Tufts, but I know he has piloted other organizations and trains across the nation. PACES Connection is national. Also, again, your pediatrician would have wonderful resources. The United Way 211 as well is always very helpful. You can go to the United Way site or you can call 211, especially if you're finding yourself needing some resources to address any of these concerns.
Any of these places that parents use sometimes as daycare, like the Boys and Girls Clubs and the YMCA, are those good resources as well?
Absolutely. I am pretty sure the Boys and Girls Club is trauma informed. And so what this means is that they are they understand the role that trauma plays, that it can play in students' lives. They're able to recognize the symptoms of trauma, and they're able to respond in a way that doesn't re-traumatize the child, but supports, nurtures, and helps build resilience and those coping skills that the child needs. So that's one thing parents can do when they put their kids in after school programs or join organizations, is to ask about, are you trauma informed? Or what are your practices around discipline and things of that nature, to make sure that they have some working knowledge of trauma in children and how that shows up in their lives and what to do to not, further traumatize them and how to respond appropriately.
Okay. So the last few years have been incredibly stressful for parents and kids. Um, how do you think that parents can help their kids feel safe at school, and any organizations that can help with that?
You're right. Kids should definitely have been going through a lot, right? And they absolutely should feel safe everywhere they go. We know they have dealt with many challenges in school, COVID, in the pandemic, bullying, even, a rise in mental health crises. All of this stuff I'm seeing in practice, schools are seeing it, and in homes with families as well. And so, again, now more than ever, schools need to become trauma informed, but they also need to provide resources and even have some of these resources in-house, with our guidance counselors or therapists or school psychologists. So those are all things that parents should ask of the school or their school boards or advocate for in their area. We think about the children at Uvalde. We have to deal with, mass shootings. All of these things are traumatic for kids and could be considered as ACEs. And so, as parents, we can all come together and advocate for more support within schools and classrooms. I think that's very important so that our kids feel safer. But also, as parents, we have a role to talk to our kids about all of these things, keep that line of communication open with our children, and keep in touch and kind of monitor them to make sure they're okay. If there's any sudden changes in their grades or their behaviors, look into that. Talk to your pediatrician about it and get them the support they need, because we know there are some challenges at the school level as well.
Great
So as
information.
far as organizations, I almost forgot what your question was. Sorry about that. Again, the pediatrician. I think United Way is a wonderful resource in this area. I, in practice, often with a family, or I'll tell them, let me check, and then I'll call you back. I'll call United Way 211 and say, I have a family experiencing this. Is there a support group in our area for bullying? Or is there a mentor program for a child who's experienced this? Or anxiety? We also have wonderful resources in the area of, mental health. So if a child's experiencing anxiety or depression, any of these types of things, it is our role as pediatrician to get them into proper care. So United Way 211 to find various resources. Always the CDC, under the particular topic that you're dealing with, they would have they not only do they give you wonderful information, but they always have additional links, graphics, videos. It always takes you to other reputable organizations that's doing the work. So that's one thing I always do, is I go to the CDC on that topic, and then it takes me other places that I know I can trust, as well as healthychildren.org, which would have a very doctor written summary about the issue, whether it's bullying or a particular mental health concern. And I can read as a parent about things that I can do and empower myself to take that to my pediatrician, or get this referral, or seek this resource. So I think all of those, again, are wonderful places to start.
And most of these websites are available in Spanish as well, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay. So lastly, I have a lot of readers on my blog that are immigrants. And I know that is that conflicting thing, that you want to keep your culture alive, but you also want to fit in the United States. Kids sometimes are being bullied because of the school lunches that they take of Latin families or things like that. So what resources are available for parents to try to find that middle ground, or how to keep the family the culture alive, but fitting in the United States?
Well, this is strictly my opinion.
Yes.
But being an African American family and living the American experience, I have, I have a Black son and I have a Black daughter, and I am in my late 40s, and I grew up marching and singing "We Shall Overcome" and all of those things. So I understand some of the nuances around racism, or around children naturally want to belong, whether they're from another country or not. They're having those issues of trying to fit in and belong with a group. And even when my daughter takes in a healthy meal with fruits and vegetables, some kid may say, "Ooh, that's yucky." It happens. However, my opinion is that I don't think or believe that you should try to fit in. I don't believe, and when I
Agree.
say that, in the sense of, I teach my children and I talk to my families and parents. our practice is very diverse. We have Spanish speaking, we have Creole speaking, we have English, we have families from the Middle East, Asian, very diverse practice. And so one thing that I make sure I say is definitely continue to teach your child your family's language,
Yes,
your
important.
family's traditions, your family's stories. Make sure they have a positive racial and ethnic and cultural identity.
Yes,
And so at home, we have to make sure that they know they have the right to show up anywhere, any space as their whole, true, authentic selves. That they don't have to fit in for anyone into the dominant culture, right?
yeah,
And so it's easier said than done, but what we can help them do is share their culture, share their stories, share their language, and learn how to do that with their friends and understand, equip them to know there are going to be some people that make fun of it or say it's this or say it's that. That's going to happen. Even if it wasn't this subject, it would be about your tennis shoes or about your hair. You know what I mean? And so we equip them, we talk to them. It's called racial socialization or just socializing them and teaching them how the world is, but never to erase who they are or fit into the dominant culture. I think some of that happens naturally, but they have the right and they should love who they are and where they come from. And and they should never feel like they have to diminish their light and who they are for someone else.
totally,
And so
totally.
that's my message. So continue to teach your kids. I know I have a lot of families who the children no longer speak Spanish or no longer speak Creole. And no, I always say, no, no. When you're home, teach them your language.
Yes,
It's natural for them to not want to do it because they're developmentally at a different phase than us adults, right?
correct.
And they want to fit in. But we have to keep doing what we know is right. And it's an advantage. It's an advantage. Just imagine if they speak Spanish and English, the advantage they have for getting into colleges and jobs and different things. And it's a part of who you are. And so I just say, teach them and then help them to understand that they're teaching others and the other people may just be coming from a place of ignorance or lack of knowledge.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful message there. No, really, it has been hard for me. I have noticed that I try to have a lot of people that are from Latin countries. The way I can have my son experience that because my
Yes.
husband is American, so we don't have that much. So that way it is. And of course, I try to stay in touch with my family back in
Yes.
Colombia as often as we can visit so he can experience the culture. It's a little challenging, but I love how you approach it. Don't try to fit in, just enjoy and be proud of where you're coming from.
That's absolutely right. And you're doing that right. Surrounding him with people from your culture and those activities and that people that he can identify with on both ends. Because if he's going to now be kind of biracial or mix from two different colors, to me, that's even more beautiful because that's just more to love, right?
Mhm.
That's just more to love. Wonderful resources there would be embracerace.org. And it's just not talking about race, but they talk about different cultures and ethnicities and backgrounds. So embrace, embrace.org. Also, PBS Kids has wonderful information in a section. It's parents, cultural awareness, and identity. So those are two good resources there.
Great.
And just books for my kids, They have books that represent their culture and their race. They have, their dolls, all of those things. But we travel a lot, and we've been to Peru and Costa Rica and and many different places. We love to travel, and I teach my kids to we dive into that cultural experience and take something back with us, and we absolutely love it. And so not everybody does that, but we have to equip our kids for that, but make sure they're open to that exposure and loving all the beauty of everyone.
Correct. And I just am gonna say something there. Not everybody might be able to afford travel, but
Yes.
even channels like the National Geographic that take you to all these places or something can give the kids that experience if you are unable to go to those specific places.
Absolutely. National Geographic is wonderful, and books as well, and different movies. You think about Encanto, and oh my good, my daughter wants to watch that, every weekend almost still.
Correct.
So
Mhm.
there's so many ways.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Do you have any final thoughts for today?
No, I think this is a wonderful part of the bigger picture of PACEs that definitely should be focused on. And I really appreciate that this is what the part of it that you love, because I think this is the piece that can um, parents can do, and it's wonderful for their kids and their families, and it brings them closer together. So positive childhood experiences is the key for preventing ACEs, but also buffering and protecting kids if any type of trauma has occurred. So you can't go wrong with that, and building those safe, stable, nurturing relationships and environments. And
Okay.
get help if you have any issue. Asking for help is key, because that's building what you need to help in that situation.
Mm. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us, Dr. Jones. I love all your answers, and I think that this is going to be really helpful for my readers. Okay,
Thank
thank you.
you for having me. Thank you.